Before you can truly heal, you must stop begging the world to love you. Sit quietly and listen. The wound inside you is not asking for another person to fix it. You, the one who has ignored your own pain while trying to be everything for everyone else. You, who forgave others but never yourself. The truth is, nothing outside you can ever complete what is already whole within you. The moment you turn inward, when you stop running from your loneliness and begin embracing it, your healing begins. Because love doesn't enter from the outside, it awakens from within. And that awakening starts the moment you whisper gently to yourself, I am enough. 1. Stop abandoning yourself to please others. Most people spend their lives trying to earn love by sacrificing pieces of themselves, not realizing that every time they do, a quiet sadness takes root in their heart. When you constantly put others' happiness before your own peace, when you silence your feelings to avoid conflict, or pretend to be fine just to keep someone close, you are slowly abandoning yourself. This is one of the deepest causes of inner emptiness. You may look calm on the outside, but inside, a part of you feels unseen and unheard. Buddhism teaches that attachment to approval is one of the subtlest forms of suffering. The mind, in its craving for validation, becomes like a beggar forever reaching out for affection, praise, or acceptance. But no matter how much you get from others, it never feels enough, because you've forgotten the source of real love, the acceptance that comes from within. True peace begins when you stop performing for love and start being love itself. Think of how exhausting it is to wear masks every day, to be one version of yourself with friends, another at work, and yet another with family. You do it because you fear rejection, but this fear keeps you trapped in a cycle of pretending, and the more you pretend, the further you drift from your true nature. The Buddha taught that all suffering arises from ignorance of who we really are. You are not here to become what others want. You are here to remember what you already are, enough. Letting go of the need to impress or please doesn't make you selfish. It makes you whole. Self-love is not about ignoring others. It's about not abandoning yourself in the process of loving them. When you begin to honor your truth, when you say no, when your heart says no, when you rest without guilt, when you express your emotions honestly, you begin to reconnect with your inner harmony. You'll notice your energy shift. You'll breathe easier. Your mind will stop overthinking every little thing you said or did, and your heart will stop aching for constant reassurance. Loving yourself first means understanding that your worth isn't measured by how useful you are to others or how much you give away. It's measured by how truthfully you live. And when you start honoring your truth, something miraculous happens. People who truly belong in your life will start respecting you more, not less. The right souls are drawn to authenticity, not perfection. So begin today. Pause and ask yourself, where have I been betraying myself just to keep someone happy? It might be in a small daily habit, a relationship, or even the way you talk to yourself. Each time you catch yourself doing it, gently return to your truth. With practice, you'll realize that real peace comes from alignment, not approval. The only nod of approval you truly need is the silent one that comes from your own soul saying, yes, this feels right. When you stop betraying yourself to please others, your energy begins to heal naturally. Your body feels lighter, your mind becomes calmer, and your spirit begins to bloom again. Self-love isn't loud, it's the quiet power that makes you whole. 2. Forgive yourself for not knowing better before. Every human being carries the weight of past choices, things we said or did when our hearts were clouded by pain, fear, or confusion. You might replay those moments in your mind, wishing you could go back and do things differently. But in Buddhism, the path to freedom begins with acceptance, not punishment. You cannot walk toward enlightenment while dragging the chains of guilt behind you. Forgiving yourself doesn't mean denying responsibility. It means releasing the unnecessary suffering that keeps you stuck in the past. When you made mistakes, you were not evil or broken. You were simply unaware. You acted from the level of understanding you had at that moment. The Buddha taught that ignorance, avidya, is the root of all suffering, and awareness is the medicine. Once you awaken, you see that your past self was doing the best it could with the awareness it had. The person you were back then didn't know what you know now. You had to go through those experiences, even the painful ones, to grow into this deeper version of yourself. We often forgive others easily, yet we are merciless toward ourselves. We replay the same mistakes again and again, punishing ourselves long after life has already moved on. Buddhism calls this unnecessary suffering dukkha, the pain created by our own resistance to what is. The truth is, guilt only binds you to the very energy you wish to escape. Compassion, on the other hand, releases it. The moment you say, "I forgive myself for not knowing better," your heart begins to soften. Healing enters through that softness. Self-forgiveness is not an excuse, it's an awakening. It's understanding that the purpose of mistakes is to reveal wisdom. When a child learns to walk, they fall countless times, but each fall is part of the process of balance. You, too, are learning to balance your soul. Each misstep taught you strength, humility, and awareness. So instead of hating the version of you that stumbled, bow to it, thank it, because without those falls, you wouldn't have discovered the power of standing again. Letting go of guilt also means letting go of the illusion that you could have done everything perfectly. Perfection is a trap of the ego. It tells you that only when you're flawless can you be worthy of love. But Buddhist wisdom reminds us that even in imperfection, you are already whole. The cracks in your story are not flaws, they are openings through which compassion shines. The lotus doesn't bloom despite the mud. It blooms because of it. Your pain was the soil that grew your strength. Take a quiet moment to place your hand over your heart and whisper gently, "I forgive you for not knowing better. I forgive you for trying so hard. I forgive you for the years you spent being at war with yourself." Feel the weight of self-judgment slowly lift. You'll notice a lightness, as if your heart finally exhaled after holding its breath for too long. Forgiving yourself is one of the highest forms of self-love. It is a declaration that you are worthy of peace, even if your past wasn't perfect. Remember, even the Buddha himself was once a seeker lost in illusion before awakening. No one begins enlightened. We all awaken step by step, mistake by mistake, moment by moment. So forgive your past, bless it, and let it become the soil from which your peace blossoms. Healing will begin the moment you stop condemning yourself for being human. 3. Embrace solitude as a sacred teacher. Most people run from silence as if it were a punishment. They keep the television on, scroll through endless screens, and surround themselves with noise, anything to avoid being alone with their thoughts. Yet, Buddhism teaches that solitude is not loneliness. It is a sacred mirror. In stillness, you finally hear the quiet voice of truth that has been drowned out by the world's constant chatter. When you learn to be comfortable in your own company, You no longer need others to fill your emptiness because you realize you were never empty to begin with. The mind fears solitude because in silence it loses control. It can no longer distract you with constant comparisons, worries, or memories. When the noise fades, your inner world becomes visible. Your fears, your wounds, your unhealed emotions rise to the surface. This is why solitude can feel uncomfortable at first. But it's not a punishment, it's purification. The Buddha often retreated into the forest, away from society's distractions, to sit with himself and watch his thoughts without judgment. In that stillness, he realized the profound truth. Peace is not found by escaping the world, but by quieting the mind. When you spend time alone, you begin to understand your own patterns. What truly makes you happy, what drains you, what feels authentic. You start to recognize how much of your behavior has been shaped by the need to fit in or be accepted. Solitude strips away all of that. It's like a reset button for the soul. When you are alone, there's no one to impress, no one to perform for only your true self, staring back at you. At first, that truth may feel unfamiliar, even unsettling, but slowly it becomes comforting. You realize you don't need to chase love. You are love when you are aligned with your inner peace. In Buddhism, there's a saying, "The mind is like water. When it is agitated, it becomes difficult to see. But when it is still, the truth becomes clear." This is what solitude does. It stills the waves of constant noise so you can see yourself clearly. Every great awakening begins in silence. Every deep realization blooms in stillness. It's in those quiet hours when no one is watching, no one is speaking, that your soul starts whispering truths you've ignored for years. Modern life teaches us to fear being alone, as if solitude means something is wrong with us. But true strength is the ability to sit with your own company and feel at peace. When you can enjoy being alone, you stop clinging to toxic people or unhealthy attachments out of fear. You begin to attract relationships based on love, not dependency. Because now, you don't need others to complete you, you simply share your completeness with them. Solitude also teaches you to appreciate the small, sacred details of life that rush by unnoticed when you're surrounded by noise. The sound of your own breath, the golden light spilling through your window, the still rhythm of your heartbeat reminding you you are alive, here, now. These simple moments hold more peace than 1,000 distractions. When you are alone, the world slows down enough for you to see the beauty that was always there. It's in solitude that you discover the difference between loneliness and aloneness. Loneliness is the absence of others. Aloneness is the presence of yourself. Loneliness cries, "I am missing something." Aloneness whispers, "I am whole." This realization changes everything, because once you feel whole within, no loss can destroy your peace, no rejection can shake your self-worth, and no external chaos can disturb your stillness. The Buddha's path to enlightenment began under a tree alone, silent and still. He didn't run from himself. He sat with his mind until he saw through its illusions. You too can begin this practice in small ways. Spend 10 minutes each day in silence, no phone, no distractions. Just sit and observe. Notice your thoughts come and go like passing clouds. At first, your mind will resist. It will bring up memories, regrets, plans, everything to keep you from peace. But if you stay still long enough, those clouds will part, and the sky of your mind will clear. In that space, you will meet the part of yourself that has never been hurt, never been abandoned, never been lost. That is your true self, infinite, peaceful, and whole. The more time you spend in solitude, the more you'll realize you've been carrying the answers all along. You'll stop looking for people to tell you who you are because you'll feel it deep within. You'll start making decisions not out of fear but from alignment. You'll trust your intuition, your timing, your journey. Solitude isn't a void, it's the birthplace of self-awareness. So instead of fearing the quiet, walk into it. Instead of filling your emptiness, listen to it. Because within that silence lives the voice of your soul, patient, wise, and waiting for you to return home. Once you learn to embrace solitude, you'll never feel lonely again. You'll understand that you were never truly alone. You were just disconnected from the deepest, most loving presence you could ever know your own. 4. Stop measuring your worth by others' eyes. One of the greatest sources of human suffering is comparison. From the moment we are young, the world teaches us to measure our value based on how we look, how much we achieve, or how we are perceived by others. We grow up seeking gold stars, compliments, followers, and approval, constantly trying to prove we are enough. But Buddhism teaches that this endless comparison is a trap created by the ego. The more we depend on others to tell us who we are, the further we drift from our true self. The truth is, no external opinion can ever define your worth, because your worth is not something that fluctuates. It simply is. Imagine standing in front of a mirror that keeps changing its reflection based on who's watching you. One moment you feel beautiful because someone praised you, and the next you feel small because someone criticized you. This is what happens when your self-image depends on others' opinions. You become a reflection of their moods, their biases, their expectations, not your truth. You hand over your peace like currency, hoping to buy validation that never lasts. It's a cycle of craving that keeps you spiritually exhausted. In Buddhist philosophy, the root of this suffering lies in upadana clinging. When you cling to reputation, appearance, or recognition, your happiness becomes fragile. It can be taken away the moment someone disagrees with you or overlooks you. The Buddha said, "He who envies others does not obtain peace of mind." Envy and comparison poison your energy because they create an illusion of separation, as if someone else's success diminishes your own. But life is not a competition, it's a collective unfolding. Just as no two flowers bloom at the same time, your journey is not meant to look like anyone else's. When you start to see yourself through your own eyes instead of the world's, you discover a quiet power. You realize that your value doesn't increase when you are praised, nor decrease when you are judged. Whether people understand you or not, your essence remains the same. The sun doesn't stop shining because someone prefers the moon. Likewise, your light doesn't fade because someone can't see it. The problem with measuring your worth externally is that it makes your peace conditional. You feel good only when you're liked, noticed, or celebrated, and miserable when you're not. But Buddhism teaches that true peace comes from equanimity, an unshakable calm that remains the same in praise or blame, success or failure. The enlightened mind doesn't rise and fall with opinions because it knows that all external judgments are temporary and empty of true meaning. The moment you realize this, life changes. You stop chasing after people's attention and start focusing on becoming a person you yourself are proud of. Instead of asking, "Do they like me?" you begin to ask, "Am I aligned with my truth?" That question frees you. You no longer decorate your soul for acceptance. You nurture it for authenticity. You stop rushing to fit into roles that make you smaller, and you start honoring your unique rhythm. It's important to remember that everyone who judges you does so through the lens of their own experience. People project their insecurities, fears, and conditioning onto others. If someone calls you selfish for setting boundaries, it may be because they were never taught self-respect. If someone calls you too quiet, it may be because they fear silence themselves. Realize this truth. No one sees you as you truly are. They only see you as they are. Once you understand that, their opinions lose power. Look around at nature. The mountain doesn't compare itself to the river. The bird doesn't envy the sky. The tree doesn't look at the flower and wish it could bloom differently. Everything in existence fulfills its role without questioning its worth. The mountain stands, the river flows, the flower blooms, each in harmony with its nature. You, too, are a part of this vast design. You don't have to prove your value. Your existence itself is proof of it. When you measure your worth by the world's standards, you live in fear. Fear of losing approval, fear of failure, fear of being forgotten. But when you measure it by the depth of your peace, your kindness, your growth, you become unshakable. True self-worth is built in silence, not in applause. It's when you can sit alone, look at yourself honestly, and say, even if no one sees my effort, I see it. Even if no one understands my heart, I understand it. That is freedom. Start by shifting your focus inward. Each day, take a moment to acknowledge something you appreciate about yourself. Not something the world praises, but something you value. Your patience, your courage, your small acts of kindness. The more you recognize your own light, the less you'll need others to confirm it. Slowly, external opinions begin to lose their hold on you. Criticism no longer wounds you deeply, and praise no longer controls you. You start to move from ego-driven validation to soul-driven peace. When you stop measuring your worth by others' eyes, you reclaim your energy. You no longer live reactively, bending and breaking to please everyone. Instead, you live intentionally, guided by inner truth. You begin to understand that you were never meant to be universally understood. You were meant to be authentically yourself. So walk your path without fear. Let others think what they will. Their opinions are clouds passing and shapeless. Your truth is the sky, vast and unchanging. You are already worthy. You always were. The moment you realize that, comparison dies, envy fades, and peace returns to its rightful place within you. 5. Speak to yourself with kindness, not judgment. The voice that speaks to you most often is not the world's, it's your own. It narrates your thoughts, reacts to your mistakes, and shapes the way you see yourself. Yet for most people, that voice is not kind. It criticizes, blames, and compares. It repeats every past failure, exaggerates every flaw, and forgets every victory. Buddhism teaches that the mind can be both a servant and a master. When ruled by judgment, it becomes a tyrant. When trained in compassion, it becomes a healer. How you speak to yourself determines whether your inner world feels like a war zone or a sanctuary. We often believe that harsh self-talk will make us stronger, that if we criticize ourselves enough, we'll change. But that's a lie the ego tells to maintain control. Harshness doesn't create growth, it creates fear. Fear silences creativity, blocks confidence, and keeps you trapped in cycles of guilt. Imagine a child learning to walk. If every time they fell, you shouted at them, would they learn faster or give up sooner? You are that child. You're still learning, still growing, still finding your balance. And just like a child, you need patience, not punishment. The Buddha once said, "You, yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection." This simple truth is often forgotten because society glorifies external kindness and neglects internal compassion. We're taught to be kind to others but rarely taught to be kind to ourselves. Yet the truth is, the way you speak to yourself sets the tone for how you treat others and how you allow others to treat you. If your inner dialogue is full of criticism, you'll either project that judgment onto others or accept it from them. If your self-talk is filled with love, you'll naturally radiate patience, understanding, and warmth. To understand how powerful your inner voice is, observe how it affects your emotions. One harsh sentence in your mind, "I'm not good enough," "I always mess up," "No one cares about me," can ruin your entire day. It's not the situation that hurts you the most. It's how you interpret it. Buddhism calls this the second arrow. The first arrow is the pain life throws at you: rejection, failure, disappointment. The second arrow is self-judgment, the story your mind tells afterward. "It's my fault. I'm worthless. I'll never change." The Buddha taught that while you may not control the first arrow, you can choose not to shoot yourself with the second. Becoming mindful of your inner voice is the first step toward transformation. The next time you make a mistake, pause before reacting. Listen to the words you're about to tell yourself. Would you say the same thing to a friend? If not, why say it to yourself? Replace cruelty with curiosity. Instead of saying, "I failed again," try asking, "What is this moment trying to teach me?" This shift turns judgment into wisdom. Compassion doesn't erase responsibility. It simply removes shame, so learning can happen naturally. You can also heal your self-talk by practicing loving-kindness meditation metta. In this practice, you silently repeat phrases of goodwill, first to yourself and then to others. May I be peaceful. May I be healthy. May I be free from suffering. It may feel strange at first because the mind resists unconditional love. But with time, these words become like water to a dry heart. They soften your inner resistance. They remind you that you are not your mistakes, your trauma, or your fears. You are the awareness witnessing them. Another powerful practice is to notice how you speak to yourself in moments of exhaustion. When you're tired, you might say, "I'm lazy." But maybe you're not lazy, you're depleted. When you're sad, you might say, "I'm weak." But maybe you're not weak, you're healing. When you're anxious, you might say, "Something's wrong with me." But maybe nothing's wrong, you're simply overwhelmed by a noisy world. Words shape perception, and perception shapes experience. By changing your inner language, you change how you experience life itself. Start speaking to yourself like someone you're responsible for protecting. Imagine that your inner dialogue is a form of self-parenting, the gentle voice that guides you through storms instead of scolding you for getting wet. When your mind begins to spiral with judgment, pause and say softly, "I'm learning, I'm doing my best, I'm allowed to be human." These are not empty affirmations, they are reminders of truth. No one grows faster through hate, only through love. When you treat yourself with compassion, your body also responds. Your nervous system relaxes, your breath slows, your heart rate softens. Science now confirms what Buddhism has known for centuries: kindness is medicine. Harsh thoughts trigger stress hormones. Gentle thoughts activate healing ones. Every time you choose to be kind to yourself, you're literally rewiring your brain for peace. It's also important to remember that the inner critic often uses other people's voices, parents, teachers, or past relationships that conditioned you to believe you're not enough. Those voices live on until you replace them with your own. So when your mind whispers, "You'll never succeed," recognize it as an echo, not a truth. Replace it gently. "I am capable. I am growing. I am allowed to try again." Over time, those gentle affirmations become your new truth, not forced positivity, but compassionate realism. You are not your failures. You are not your flaws. You are a continuous work of art, painted by experience and shaped by resilience. Every harsh word you've spoken to yourself can be rewritten with gentleness. Every moment of self-hate can become a lesson in love. So speak softly to yourself, not because you're fragile, but because you're sacred. Not because you're weak, but because you deserve peace. Let your inner voice become your ally instead of your enemy. Let it guide you toward growth, not guilt. When you start talking to yourself with the same kindness you show a loved one, everything in your life begins to shift: your confidence, your relationships, your energy, even your destiny. Because the truth is simple yet profound. Healing begins the moment your words stop hurting you. 6. Let go of people who don't nurture your peace. One of the hardest lessons in life, and one of the most freeing, is learning that not everyone is meant to walk your entire journey with you. Some people enter your life as blessings, others as lessons, and a few as awakenings. Buddhism teaches that suffering often begins when we cling, when we hold on to people long after their purpose in our story has been fulfilled. The heart doesn't want to let go because it confuses attachment with love. But there is a sacred difference. Love is free, while attachment is fear disguised as care. To love yourself fully, you must have the courage to release what disturbs your peace, no matter how familiar it feels. In the Buddhist path, everything is impermanent anicca. People change, energy shifts, relationships evolve. Yet, our minds resist this truth because we crave stability in a world that constantly moves. You might keep holding on to someone because you shared history, or because you once felt seen by them, even if now they only bring you pain. You tell yourself, maybe they'll change, or maybe I'm overreacting. But deep down, your intuition knows when a bond no longer feeds your growth. Ignoring that knowing only delays peace. Think about a garden. Some plants thrive when they're given sunlight and care, while others wither, no matter how much attention you give them. Holding on to dying plants drains the soil for the ones still growing. The same is true with relationships. You can pour your heart into someone who doesn't reciprocate, but love without balance becomes self-neglect. True compassion isn't about letting everyone stay. It's about recognizing when staying means losing yourself. There's a gentle but powerful Buddhist truth. You can still love them and let them go. Letting go doesn't mean erasing love or pretending it never mattered. It means releasing your grip on what's harming your peace. You can love someone deeply and still acknowledge that their energy no longer aligns with your path. You can forgive without inviting them back into your life. Forgiveness is for your peace. Access is a privilege. When you keep people in your life out of guilt, fear, or loneliness, you become a prisoner of your own compassion. But when you let go with wisdom, you honor both yourself and them because you allow space for both souls to grow. It's also important to understand that some people will only meet you at the level of their own healing. You might have evolved beyond the kind of energy you once tolerated: gossip, negativity, manipulation, or chaos. When you begin to walk the path of peace, your vibration changes, and not everyone can meet you there. This is not arrogance, it's alignment. The higher you rise in awareness, the fewer people you'll find at that altitude. But don't mistake solitude for loss. Sometimes God, the universe, or the flow of Dharma removes people not to punish you, but to prepare you. Every soul that exits your life makes space for something higher, calmer, and more in harmony with who you're becoming. The Buddha often reminded his disciples of the danger of unwholesome associations. He said that who you spend time with influences the state of your mind. If you surround yourself with those who gossip, you begin to speak idly. If you stay around anger, you start to carry its fire. If you dwell in negativity, your spirit begins to dim. But when you walk with the wise, your heart expands, your patience deepens, and your energy becomes light. The company you keep is not about judgment, it's about energy exchange. Every interaction either adds to your peace or drains it. It takes courage to detach. Sometimes the people you must release are the ones you love the most. But the truth is, holding on to relationships that no longer serve your well-being doesn't preserve love. It suffocates it. Real love grows in freedom, not in clinging. When you let go, you allow love to transform from dependency to compassion, from longing to gratitude. You stop saying, "Why did they leave?" and start understanding, "Their time in my story is complete." When you decide to walk away, do it with grace. You don't have to argue, explain, or convince anyone of your worth. Silence is a language that only peace understands. Leave with kindness, even if they don't understand your decision. Because in Buddhism, the goal isn't to win arguments, it's to protect the purity of your heart. Resentment ties you energetically to the past. Forgiveness sets you free. Letting go also means releasing the fantasy of what someone could be and accepting what they are. Many people stay trapped in relationships not because of love, but because of potential. You fall in love with the idea of who they might become someday, while ignoring who they consistently show you they are now. This creates endless suffering. When you love yourself, you no longer chase potential. You honor reality. You stop saying, "I'll stay until they change," and start saying, "I'll grow where I'm respected." To practice letting go, try this simple mindfulness exercise. Close your eyes. Breathe deeply, and visualize the person you're struggling to release. See them standing before you, surrounded by light. Say silently, "I release you with love. May you find peace on your path, and may I find peace on mine." Feel the tension leave your body. You don't need closure from them. The closure is your acceptance. Each time you do this, your grip weakens and your heart lightens. Remember, protecting your peace is not selfish, it's sacred. You cannot pour from an empty cup, nor can you heal in environments that keep reopening your wounds. Buddhism teaches right association, to seek relationships that uplift, encourage mindfulness, and reflect mutual respect. Love yourself enough to walk away from anything that requires you to abandon your joy. With time, you'll see that letting go isn't the end of love, it's the beginning of wisdom. You'll understand that peace doesn't come from controlling who stays or who leaves, but from trusting that whatever departs was never meant to stay, and whatever remains is aligned with your truth. As you continue walking your path, lighter and freer, you'll realize that every goodbye was guiding you back to the same place yourself. And in that space of inner stillness, you'll find the most beautiful company of all, your own soul at peace. 7. Return to the present moment. That's where you exist. Most of the pain you carry does not come from what is happening right now. It comes from your mind's inability to stay in this moment. You are either replaying what has already happened or worrying about what might happen next. You drift between yesterday's regrets and tomorrow's fears, rarely touching the sacred space of now. Buddhism calls this wandering samsara, the endless cycle of mental suffering created by a restless mind. The Buddha taught that freedom is not found in controlling the future or rewriting the past, but in awakening to this breath, this heartbeat, this very instant. The present moment is not just a fragment of time, it is the only reality that truly exists. Everything else is a projection. The past exists only as memory, the future only as imagination. Yet, your mind spends most of its energy trying to fix, analyze, or predict illusions. It's like chasing the horizon. The more you run, the further it gets. That's why peace feels so distant. You're looking for it everywhere except where it actually lives here. Think about how much suffering comes from mental time travel. You replay conversations, wondering what you should have said differently. You relive heartbreaks, punishing yourself for not seeing the signs. You worry about outcomes you can't control: jobs, relationships, money, aging, death. All of this happens inside the mind, yet your body is always here, in the present. The body breathes, but the mind is lost somewhere else. Buddhism teaches that this split between body and mind is the root of unease. To heal, you must bring your mind home to your body, to this very breath, to this very heartbeat. Mindfulness is not about forcing stillness, it's about remembering presence. It means noticing the simple truth that you are alive. Now, when you breathe in, you know you're breathing in. When you breathe out, you know you're breathing out. That awareness reconnects you to the miracle of existence. You begin to feel the air entering your lungs, the rise and fall of your chest, the weight of your body resting on the earth. These small sensations are gateways to peace. The present moment doesn't need to be perfect to be enough. It simply needs to be seen. When you start living mindfully, you realize how much beauty hides in ordinary things. The morning light reflecting off a cup of tea, the sound of rain tapping against your window, the warmth of sunlight on your face, all these tiny miracles unfold every day, yet go unnoticed when your attention is trapped in thought. The mind says, "This moment is not enough. Something is missing." But the heart whispers, "Everything you need is already here." The Buddha compared the present moment to a calm lake. When the surface is still, it perfectly reflects the sky. But when disturbed by wind, the reflection becomes distorted. In the same way, when your mind is still, reality appears clear. When it's agitated by regret or anxiety, your perception becomes cloudy. Mindfulness is the art of stilling the wind. It's not about escaping your emotions, but watching them pass like waves without drowning in them. Try this. The next time your thoughts begin to spiral, pause and take one deep breath. Feel the air move in through your nose and out through your mouth. Now gently ask yourself, Where am I right now? You'll find that in this very second, nothing is truly wrong. Most pain exists only in the stories your mind tells about the past or the fears it invents about the future. In the now, there is usually peace, even if just a small flicker. If you nurture that flicker, it grows into a steady flame. In Buddhism, the practice of returning to the present moment is called sati, mindfulness. It's not a technique, but a way of living. When you eat fully, tasting, smelling, noticing. When you walk with awareness, feeling each step, hearing the rhythm of your breath. When you listen to someone, you listen deeply, not waiting to respond, but truly receiving their words. Each of these small acts anchors you to the now. Many people fear the present moment because it feels empty. They fill it with distractions, phones, noise, endless tasks, anything to avoid facing themselves. But the emptiness they fear is not nothingness, it's spaciousness. It's the stillness where your spirit breathes. When you stop running from the present, you discover that it's not empty at all. It's alive with awareness, peace, and clarity. That is why Buddhist monks can sit in silence for hours, seemingly doing nothing. They are fully being. You may ask, how do I stop my mind from wandering? The truth is, you can't force stillness, you can only invite it. The mind's nature is movement, like the wind or the tide, but through gentle awareness, you can teach it to rest. Each time your thoughts drift, don't scold yourself. Simply notice, the mind has wandered, and bring it back again and again. Every return is a small victory. With time, this act becomes effortless, like returning home after a long journey. The present moment also teaches surrender. When you are fully here, you realize that life unfolds on its own. You stop fighting time, stop rushing to the next moment, and start trusting the one you're in. You begin to understand that every experience, joy, sorrow, gain, loss, arrives only to pass. Nothing is permanent, not even pain. This realization brings deep peace because it dissolves resistance. You no longer demand that life be a certain way. You simply witness it as it is raw, real, and sacred. Notice how your suffering changes when you stop arguing with what is. When you accept that the past cannot be changed and the future cannot be controlled, your energy returns to this breath. That's where healing begins. Buddhism teaches that enlightenment is not a distant state. It's the complete awareness of the present moment. Every time you come back to your breath, you take a small step toward that enlightenment. There's a story told about the Buddha walking through a forest with his disciples. One of them asked, "Master, what is the secret of peace?" The Buddha smiled and said, "When I walk, I walk. When I eat, I eat. When I sleep, I sleep." The disciple was confused and said, "But we all do that." The Buddha replied, "No. When you walk, your mind is elsewhere. When you eat, you are already thinking about tomorrow. When you sleep, your mind dreams of yesterday. That is why you are not at peace. Peace is doing one thing at a time, fully, consciously, lovingly. This is the heart of mindfulness. When you are truly present, you are no longer fragmented. You stop scattering your attention across 1,000 imaginary problems and start gathering it into one still awareness. That awareness becomes your home, a space untouched by chaos, untouched by fear. To deepen this practice, take small steps each day. When you wake up, instead of reaching for your phone, take 3 conscious breaths, and feel gratitude for another day. When you eat, slow down, notice the texture, the flavor, the miracle of nourishment. When you speak, pause before words, leave your lips, speak from awareness, not impulse. When you walk outside, lift your eyes from the ground and notice the colors of the sky, the rhythm of your steps, the aliveness of everything around you. These small acts awaken you from the trance of distraction. In Buddhism, the present moment is often described as a tiny door to liberation. Most people walk past it, searching for happiness elsewhere. But if you stop and open it even slightly, you'll see that everything you've been chasing has been here all along. Love is here. Peace is here. Joy is here. You don't need to earn it, you just need to notice it. The mind, however, will resist. It will whisper, "You don't have time for this." Or, "You'll find peace once you fix everything first." But this is the greatest illusion of all. You will never fix everything, not because you're failing, but because life is not meant to be fixed. It's meant to be experienced. The more you accept this truth, the more your anxiety fades. You realize that life isn't happening to you, it's happening for you in this very moment. There will still be challenges, moments of sadness, anger, or fear. Mindfulness doesn't erase them, it transforms your relationship to them. Instead of reacting blindly, you observe, you breathe, you respond from awareness, not emotion. Slowly, life stops feeling like a storm you must survive and becomes an ocean you can float upon. When you live anchored in the now, the past loses its power to hurt you, and the future loses its power to scare you. You become like a mountain still, strong, unmoved by passing clouds. People may misunderstand you, situations may change, but your center remains calm. This calm is not indifference, it's wisdom. It's the understanding that everything, joy and sorrow alike, is part of the great rhythm of existence. So when your mind begins to wander, gently guide it back with love. Feel your breath. Listen to the sounds around you. Let the present embrace you. This moment is all you truly have, not tomorrow, not yesterday, but now. In this breath, life is whole. In this second, you are enough. The present moment is not a place you must reach. It's the space you've never truly left. You just forgot to notice. Come back home to yourself. Sit in stillness. Breathe. Let the noise fade. In this silence, you will discover the timeless truth that the Buddha discovered under the Bodhi tree, that peace is not found in the future, nor buried in the past. It is here, pulsing through every breath you take, waiting patiently for you to remember. The moment you fully awaken to now, you realize that healing was never something you had to search for. It was already flowing through you, quietly, all along. 8. Heal by accepting life as it is, not as you wish it to be. Every human heart carries an invisible weight, the resistance to what is. We suffer not because life is cruel, but because we refuse to accept it in its natural form. We dream of a perfect version of reality, the job that always fulfills us, the relationship that never hurts, the world that always makes sense. But life, by its very nature, flows beyond our control. It changes, it surprises, it takes and gives without asking permission. Buddhism teaches that suffering begins when the mind demands life to be different than it is. Healing begins when we finally whisper, "Let it be." Acceptance is not resignation. It is not giving up or saying, "This is fine." It is seeing clearly without distortion. It is recognizing that the present moment, whether filled with joy or pain, is the only place where life truly happens. The Buddha called this the middle path, the balance between control and surrender. When you stop fighting reality, you make space for peace. When you stop wishing for the storm to end, you learn to dance in the rain. We often try to fix pain by changing the outer world. New jobs, new cities, new relationships. But every time you run from discomfort, it follows you in a new form. Because the real battlefield is not outside, it's within your perception. The problem is rarely the event, it's your resistance to the event. A delay, a rejection, a loss, these are neutral until the mind labels them as bad. When you let go of labeling, life becomes less like a battlefield and more like a flowing river. You stop demanding that it bends your way, and instead, you learn to flow with it. Acceptance doesn't mean you enjoy everything that happens. It means you stop creating extra suffering through resistance. Imagine carrying a heavy stone of anger about something that cannot be changed. Every time you think about it, you pick up that stone again. It weighs you down. When you finally accept, you set the stone down. The situation remains the same, but your suffering disappears. Buddhism calls this dukkha nirodha, the end of suffering through understanding. Sometimes we cling to pain because it makes us feel in control. If we replay it enough, maybe we can rewrite it. If we hold on to our anger, maybe we can make the past fair. But life doesn't bargain. It unfolds with a wisdom beyond your understanding. There are lessons woven into every loss, growth hidden inside every ending. When you begin to trust that everything happens for your awakening, even the painful parts, acceptance transforms into grace. The Buddha taught impermanence anicca. Everything that arises must pass. No storm lasts forever, and no joy can be held in place. The tighter you grip what's changing, the more it hurts when it leaves. Acceptance is the art of unclenching your fists. It is saying, I release my need to control the uncontrollable. When you do this, you stop drowning in the waves of life and begin to float upon them. You discover that life is not trying to break you, it's trying to open you. Letting life be as it is doesn't mean you stop dreaming or desiring. It means your peace no longer depends on outcomes. You can want things deeply, love, success, healing, but without the desperation that says, I can't be happy until I have them. Buddhism teaches non-attachment to engage fully with life while remaining free from dependence. When you practice this, joy becomes unconditional. You no longer postpone happiness for some imagined future. You live fully now, even amidst uncertainty. Think about nature. The tree doesn't argue with the seasons. It doesn't demand that spring comes faster or that winter ends sooner. It simply adapts, shedding, blooming, resting. In the same way, acceptance means flowing with the seasons of your life. Some days are growth, others are stillness. Some chapters close suddenly, others unfold slowly. But each one is part of the greater balance. When you learn to honor every season, even the cold ones, you discover inner harmony. Pain will visit you, but suffering is optional. The Buddha once said, pain is certain, suffering is optional. The difference lies in your reaction. When you resist pain, it multiplies. When you accept it, it dissolves. Acceptance turns suffering into understanding, and understanding turns pain into wisdom. Every heartbreak, every disappointment, every loss, all of them are teachers wearing disguises. Each one asks, can you love life even now? To practice acceptance, begin small. When something doesn't go as planned, the traffic jam, the delayed message, the unexpected comment, notice your reaction. Instead of saying, this shouldn't be happening, try saying, this is happening and I choose peace anyway. This simple shift rewires your relationship with life. Over time, your mind becomes less reactive, your emotions steadier, your spirit lighter. Meditation helps cultivate this acceptance. Sit quietly, observe your breath, and notice your thoughts without judgment. Don't chase them or fight them, just watch them pass like clouds. Some thoughts will be pleasant, others painful. But when you stop attaching to them, you begin to realize something profound. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness beneath them, vast, still, and unbothered. That awareness is where acceptance lives. Accepting life doesn't mean you stop caring or stop trying to improve things. It means you stop adding unnecessary suffering on top of what already exists. You can still work for change, but from a place of clarity instead of frustration. When you act from acceptance, your actions are wiser, calmer, and more effective. You don't fight life. You collaborate with it. And perhaps the most beautiful part of acceptance is that it brings you home to the present. You stop living in the illusion of what could have been or what might be, and begin to live in what is. You start to see that even this moment, with its imperfections and uncertainties, is sacred. The light touching your skin, the air entering your lungs, the heartbeat pulsing through your chest, all reminders that you are alive right now. When you live in this awareness, gratitude replaces complaint, peace replaces control. Sometimes acceptance comes with tears. It's not always graceful. There will be moments when your heart aches from letting go, when surrender feels like defeat. But if you stay with that pain, breathe into it, and allow it to move through you, it transforms. What feels like breaking is actually opening. What feels like loss is actually clearing. In time, you'll look back and realize life wasn't punishing you, it was preparing you. Acceptance is not an ending, it's a beginning. It's the doorway to serenity, compassion, and deep self-love. It's realizing that peace isn't something you achieve once life behaves. It's something you cultivate regardless of how life behaves. When you reach this understanding, you stop waiting for healing and start living it. So the next time life unfolds differently than you hoped, whisper softly to yourself, "Let it be." Let the waves rise and fall. Let people come and go. Let change happen. Trust that everything appearing in your life, even the parts you don't understand, is guiding you toward awakening. The moment you stop fighting life, life stops fighting you. You begin to move with it instead of against it. Your heart, once clenched in resistance, begins to expand. Your breath becomes easier. Your mind quieter. Your being lighter. When you finally learn to accept life as it is, not as you wish it to be, a profound truth dawns. Nothing needs to be different for you to be at peace. Because peace was never missing, it was only hidden behind your resistance. And when you let go, when you simply allow, when you finally say yes to what is healing, doesn't have to be forced. It happens naturally, like the sun rising after a long night, inevitable and breathtakingly gentle. Joe, your healing deepens when you stop running from yourself. In every quiet moment of your life, there's a soft voice within you that whispers truths you've long avoided hearing. It's not loud or demanding. It's patient, gentle, and endlessly loving. But for most people, that voice is buried under noise. The noise of fear, of judgment, of busyness, of pretending to be someone you're not. We fill our days with distractions, endless scrolling, constant planning, non-stop doing anything to avoid being alone with ourselves. Yet Buddhism teaches that true healing begins not when you run faster from your pain, but when you turn around and face it. Because the thing you've been running from isn't your enemy, it's the part of you that needs love the most. When you keep yourself constantly busy, always searching for external peace, you create an illusion that the problem is out there. You tell yourself, I'll feel better when I get that job. I'll finally heal once someone understands me. I'll be happy when life becomes easier. But happiness built on conditions is fragile. Peace built on escape will always collapse. The Buddha once said, "There is no path to peace. Peace is the path." Meaning, you don't reach peace by fixing your life, you reach peace by understanding yourself. You stop running and start seeing. You stop escaping and start embracing. Running from yourself can take many forms. Sometimes it looks like overworking, constantly filling your time so you don't have to feel. Sometimes it looks like perfectionism, trying to control everything so you never have to face uncertainty. Sometimes it looks like chasing relationships, seeking love from others, because you can't bear the silence of being alone. But no matter how far you run, your unhealed self will always wait patiently for you. It will show up in your anxiety, your exhaustion, your repeated patterns. Not as punishment, but as a reminder. You cannot heal what you refuse to feel. In Buddhism, this understanding is called mindful awareness, the courage to sit with yourself without judgment. When you stop running and begin to observe, you realize that most of your suffering is self-created. You see how your mind clings to old wounds, repeats old stories, and labels everything as good or bad. But when you sit quietly, when you just breathe and observe, something miraculous happens. You begin to see that your thoughts are not facts, they are passing clouds in a vast sky. The sky, your awareness, has never been broken, it has only been covered. When you face yourself, you start to uncover truths that may feel uncomfortable at first. You may see how much you've abandoned your own needs to please others. You may realize how much resentment you still hold toward people who hurt you. You may see the parts of yourself you've suppressed: anger, sadness, fear, because you were taught they made you weak. But instead of pushing these emotions away, Buddhism invites you to meet them with compassion. Sit with your sadness and ask, "What are you trying to tell me?" Listen to your fear and ask, "What do you need to feel safe?" In that act of listening, healing begins. Most people believe healing is about changing themselves, but real healing is about accepting themselves completely. It's about embracing even the parts that scare you, your insecurities, your doubts, your past mistakes. Because those are not signs of weakness, they are proof that you've lived. The lotus, one of the most sacred symbols in Buddhism, grows in the mud. Without the darkness, it could never bloom. In the same way, your pain is not something to hide, it's the soil from which your wisdom grows. When you finally stop running, you start understanding. You see that the moments you once labeled as failures were actually sacred turning points. The people who hurt you were not curses, they were mirrors showing you where you needed boundaries. The loneliness you feared was not emptiness, it was an invitation to reconnect with your own spirit. Everything that once felt like punishment was actually preparation, life's way of guiding you back home to yourself. The process of returning to yourself isn't glamorous. It's slow, raw, and deeply human. Some days it feels like progress. Other days it feels like falling apart. But even in the falling apart, there is growth because you're finally allowing yourself to feel. The Buddha never promised a life without pain. He promised freedom from unnecessary suffering. Pain will visit you. That's part of being alive. But when you stop running from it, when you allow yourself to feel it fully, it transforms. Pain, when met with awareness, becomes wisdom. Think of your emotions as waves. When you resist them, you drown. But when you allow them to rise and fall, you float. Each wave has a message. Anger might be saying, "Something needs to change." Sadness might be saying, "You're missing something you love." Fear might be saying, "Please be gentle with me." When you learn to listen without judgment, emotions stop controlling you. They become teachers. Silence is your greatest ally in this process. In silence, the mind slows down enough for the soul to speak. Sit quietly each day, even for a few minutes. No music, no distractions, just your breath. Watch how your mind tries to pull you away. This is boring. This is uncomfortable. That's the ego resisting stillness because stillness reveals truth. Stay anyway. Sit with yourself until the noise fades and the truth beneath begins to whisper. You'll start to notice patterns, insights, memories, and with them, understanding. When you make peace with yourself, the outer world changes too. Relationships become easier because you no longer seek others to fill your emptiness. Work becomes lighter because your worth is no longer tied to achievement. Even challenges feel different because you meet them from stability instead of chaos. The Buddha said, "Better than 1,000 hollow words is one word that brings peace." When you are at peace within, every action, every word, every step reflects that peace outward. One of the most powerful Buddhist teachings is that the mind is everything. What you believe, you become. If your inner dialogue is full of criticism, "I'm not enough, I'm broken, I'll never heal," you build a world that mirrors those thoughts. But if your inner dialogue becomes gentle, "I'm learning, I'm growing, I forgive myself," your entire energy changes. You begin to notice opportunities, love, and synchronicities that were always there, but invisible through the fog of self-judgment. Forgiving yourself is the final stage of stopping the inner chase. You might not realize it, but many of your patterns, overthinking, perfectionism, emotional avoidance, come from self-blame. Somewhere deep down, you believe you are unworthy of love until you fix yourself. But healing doesn't come from fixing, it comes from remembering. You were born enough. You were born worthy. Life's experiences may have covered that truth with layers of pain, but your core remains untouched, pure, luminous, and whole. When you stop running from yourself, you reclaim your energy. You begin to notice how much of your strength was wasted fighting shadows in your own mind. You realize that your anxiety was just unexpressed emotion, your anger was unspoken truth, and your sadness was love with nowhere to go. By turning toward these feelings instead of away from them, you release their hold on you. They stop being monsters and become messengers. Healing is not a straight line. Some days you will feel peaceful, other days old wounds will resurface. Do not mistake that for failure. It's like cleaning a wound. Sometimes the pain returns before it closes. Be gentle with yourself. Every time you sit with your emotions instead of avoiding them, you strengthen your inner peace. Every time you choose awareness over reaction, you step closer to freedom. Remember, enlightenment is not a destination. It's a returning again and again to your center. Each time you fall into distraction or fear, simply notice and return. Each return is sacred. The Buddha reached enlightenment not because he escaped himself, but because he sat beneath a tree and faced every shadow within. You can do the same. The next time you feel lost, overwhelmed, or disconnected, pause. Place your hand over your heart. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Whisper softly, "I am here. I am safe. I am enough." Feel your breath grounding you in the moment. Feel your heart reminding you that you've survived every single thing you once thought would break you. This presence is your true home. When you stop running from yourself, you discover that there was never anything to run from. The parts you feared are just fragments longing to be held. The pain you avoided becomes the doorway to your greatest peace. The silence you resisted becomes the melody of your soul. You realize that everything you were seeking, love, safety, wholeness, was always within you, patiently waiting for your return. So stop running. Stop searching for yourself in other people, in accomplishments, in distractions. Sit down in your own presence and meet the one you've been avoiding, not as an enemy, but as a beloved. The moment you do, something profound happens. The chase ends, the noise fades, and you remember who you truly are. You were never broken. You were simply running from your own light. And when you finally stop running, you don't just find healing, you become it. 10. Self-love is the doorway to inner freedom. There is a quiet turning point in every person's life, a moment when the search outside exhausts itself, and you realize that everything you were trying to find was always waiting within. The affection you chased in others, the approval you begged for, the peace you believed was hidden in achievements or possessions, all of it, every drop of it, lives inside your own heart. Buddhism teaches that liberation is not a mountain to climb. It is the simple act of coming home to yourself. When you learn to love yourself deeply, completely, without condition, you are no longer chained to the world's constant noise. You become free, not because life stops challenging you, but because nothing outside you can imprison your spirit anymore. Most people misunderstand self-love. They think it means indulgence or selfishness, but it is neither. Self-love is self-respect. It is treating yourself with the same care and reverence you would offer to someone you cherish. It is realizing that you, too, deserve the gentleness you so easily give to others. Without self-love, every relationship becomes a search for validation. You cling to people hoping they'll fill the emptiness inside, but they never can, because that emptiness is not a lack of others, it's the absence of your own acceptance. The Buddha said, "You yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. Until you understand this, you'll keep wandering like a thirsty traveler searching for water while standing in the rain." Self-love begins when you stop believing the stories your mind tells about your worth. From childhood, you're conditioned to think your value depends on performance. Be good, be smart, be attractive, be productive. And so, your entire life becomes a chase to meet invisible standards. But Buddhist wisdom teaches that all labels, success, failure, beauty, ugliness, are illusions of the mind. They change with time, with opinion, with circumstance. Who you are beneath them, the silent awareness watching it all that never changes. That awareness is your true self, and it has never been unworthy, not for a single breath. To love yourself is to sit with your own imperfections and whisper, "Even this is allowed." It means looking at your flaws, your past mistakes, your unhealed wounds, and instead of condemning them, understanding them. You see that every scar on your heart was once a place where light entered. You stop seeing yourself as broken and begin seeing yourself as becoming. Like a lotus rising from the mud, your beauty comes not despite your pain, but because of it. Every heartbreak has softened you. Every failure has taught you humility. Every loss has deepened your compassion. When you love yourself, you stop wishing your past away and start bowing to it in gratitude. The mind resists this because it has been trained to believe that love must be earned. It will whisper, "You can love yourself when you've changed, when you're better, when you're healed." But that is the ego's trap. True self-love begins now, in your current, imperfect form. It's not something you unlock once you achieve perfection. It's what allows healing to happen in the first place. When you accept yourself completely, the war within ends. Energy that was once spent fighting yourself becomes the energy that finally heals you. Loving yourself also means setting boundaries. Buddhism emphasizes right association, surrounding yourself with energy that nourishes, not depletes, your peace. Many people stay in toxic environments because they mistake endurance for compassion. But compassion without boundaries is self-harm. To love yourself is to know when to walk away, not out of pride, but out of wisdom. You realize that you cannot grow in soil that keeps wounding you. Leaving what hurts you isn't cruelty, it's clarity. You begin to understand that your peace is not negotiable, that your well-being is sacred ground. As you strengthen in self-love, life begins to shift. You stop chasing people who cannot meet you. You stop explaining your worth to those who refuse to see it. You stop begging for love that already exists inside you. And something beautiful happens. The right people, the ones who resonate with your authenticity, start to find you naturally. You attract not through effort, but through energy. Your peace becomes magnetic. Self-love also transforms your relationship with failure. Instead of seeing mistakes as proof that you are not good enough, you start seeing them as opportunities for growth. Buddhism teaches beginner's mind approaching every moment as a new chance to learn. When you love yourself, you are no longer afraid of failure because you no longer tie your identity to outcomes. You can stumble, fall, and rise again without shame. Each fall becomes a bow to wisdom, each rise a celebration of resilience. The practice of self-love can begin with simple acts. Start by becoming aware of how you speak to yourself. If your inner voice is harsh, replace it with kindness. Instead of saying, "I'm so stupid," say, "I'm learning." Instead of saying, "I'm not enough," say, "I'm growing." Words carry energy. They shape the landscape of your mind. When your inner dialogue becomes loving, your outer world reflects that love. Take care of your body, not because you want to impress anyone, but because it is your sacred home. Feed it well, rest it, move it gently. Meditate daily not to escape the world, but to reconnect with the stillness beneath it. Breathe consciously. Notice the sensations in your body, the rhythm of your heartbeat, the miracle of being alive. Gratitude is a form of love. Each mindful breath is a reminder that life is happening for you, not to you. There will be moments when self-love feels distant, when old wounds resurface and self-doubt creeps in. Don't see these moments as setbacks. See them as part of the practice. Even the Buddha faced Mara, the embodiment of temptation and self-doubt, on the night of his enlightenment. He did not fight Mara. He acknowledged him and said, "I see you." That simple awareness dissolved Mara's power. You can do the same with your inner critic. When it whispers, "You're not good enough," simply respond, "I see you, old friend." Smile softly and return to your breath. Each time you do this, your love grows stronger than your fear. True self-love doesn't make you self-centered, it makes you self-aware. The more you love yourself, the more compassion you have for others, because you begin to see the same struggles in them that you faced within yourself. You realize that every person you meet is fighting invisible battles, longing for acceptance just as you once did. From that understanding arises genuine kindness, not out of obligation, but out of shared humanity. The ultimate goal of Buddhism is liberation from suffering, and self-love is the path toward that liberation. When you stop rejecting yourself, you stop creating inner conflict. When you stop seeking love externally, you stop clinging to illusions. Freedom arises naturally, not because you've escaped the world, but because you've made peace with it. You can walk through chaos with calm eyes. You can face loss without losing yourself. You can live fully, love deeply, and let go gracefully. So, how do you know when you've begun to truly love yourself? You'll feel it in the quiet. You'll notice that your mind is softer. You'll find beauty in simplicity, in sunlight, in laughter, in ordinary moments. You'll stop over-explaining, stop chasing, stop apologizing for existing. You'll begin to feel comfortable in your own silence. That is the beginning of inner freedom, the state where nothing outside you determines how you feel inside. To live in self-love is to live in alignment with truth. It is to walk through the world as your most authentic self, unmasked and unafraid. It is to honor your path, even when it looks different from others. It is to forgive yourself for every time you forgot your worth, and to promise that from now on, you will never abandon yourself again. Take a deep breath right now. Feel your heart beating beneath your hand. That rhythm, steady, constant, alive, has carried you through every storm, every heartbreak, every moment of doubt. It never gave up on you. Let this be your reminder. The love you seek has been beating inside you all along. The Buddha said, "Peace comes from within. Do not seek it without." When you love yourself, those words become your living truth. You no longer wait for the world to love you back. You are love, walking, breathing, expanding. And as this love grows, it spills outward, touching everything you see. That is inner freedom, not the absence of pain, but the presence of love so vast that pain can no longer define you. You live, you breathe, you let go, and you rise again. The moment you realize that self-love is not selfish but sacred, you awaken to the ultimate truth. You were never incomplete. You were always whole. You just needed to remember. So stop searching for home in others. Stop running from your reflection. Look into your own eyes and see the divine light that has always been there. Whisper softly to yourself, "I am here. I am enough. I am free." Because in that realization, in that breath of unconditional acceptance, the journey ends and true peace begins. 11. The path of compassion, healing others, begins with healing yourself. At some point on your journey of healing and self-discovery, you realize that self-love and compassion for others are not two separate things. They are two sides of the same coin. The more you learn to forgive yourself, the more you understand others. The more you hold space for your own pain, the more gently you can hold the pain of the world. Buddhism teaches that compassion, karuna, is not just a virtue, it is the heartbeat of enlightenment itself. It is the soft strength that transforms both suffering and the one who suffers. But before compassion can truly reach others, it must first blossom within your own heart. We live in a world that often glorifies toughness and suppresses tenderness. People mistake hardness for strength, believing that to survive, they must shut down their sensitivity. But when you numb your heart to protect it, you also cut off your connection to love, empathy, and peace. The Buddha taught that true strength arises not from closing the heart, but from opening it fully, even when it hurts. Compassion begins when you allow yourself to feel, to see your own wounds, and to understand that pain is not a personal failure. It's the common language of humanity. Every person you meet carries unseen battles, fears, regrets, memories they never speak of. When you recognize this, judgment fades. You stop asking, "Why are they like this?" and start thinking, "They must be hurting too." But you can only reach this depth of empathy once you've made peace with your own pain. If you reject your suffering, you'll reject the suffering of others. If you shame your own imperfections, you'll unconsciously shame others for theirs. The path of compassion always begins inward. Start by sitting with your own heart. Notice where it aches. Notice the stories you tell yourself, the ones that whisper, "I'm not enough," or "I don't deserve love." Don't silence those voices. Instead, meet them with kindness. Imagine your younger self sitting before you, frightened, tired, misunderstood. What would you say to them? You wouldn't shout, you wouldn't judge. You would hold them softly and say, "You are safe now. You did your best. You are loved." This act of giving yourself the compassion you never received begins to heal generations of inner wounds. As you practice self-compassion, something subtle begins to shift. The world softens. The same patience you offer yourself extends naturally to others. You stop taking people's behavior so personally. When someone lashes out, you see their suffering instead of reacting to their words. When someone disappoints you, you recognize that they too are trapped in their own patterns of fear and pain. Compassion gives you the power to respond with understanding rather than anger. It doesn't mean allowing harm. It means seeing clearly without hatred. The Buddha compared compassion to a mother's love, unconditional, vast, and protective. A mother doesn't love her child only when it behaves well. She loves it through every mistake, every fall, every tantrum. In the same way, compassion is not selective. It doesn't say, "I'll love this person but not that one." True compassion extends to all beings, even those who cause harm, because to hate them is to carry their poison within yourself. Compassion doesn't mean agreeing with wrongdoing. It means wishing for everyone's ignorance and pain to end. This, however, does not happen instantly. Compassion must be cultivated through practice. One of the most powerful ways to do this is through metta bhavana, the meditation of loving kindness. Sit quietly, breathe deeply, and repeat phrases of goodwill. May I be happy. May I be peaceful. May I be free from suffering. Then extend it outward. May you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be free from suffering. Start with someone you love easily, then include someone neutral, then someone who challenges you. Finally, expand your circle to all living beings. At first, your mind will resist, especially when you think of people who hurt you. But keep going. Each repetition softens the walls around your heart. Over time, you begin to feel something extraordinary, a warmth that no one can take away. True compassion is not pity. Pity looks down. Compassion stands beside. Pity says, "You are weak. I will save you." Compassion says, "We are both human. Let's walk together." This equality is essential. The Buddha did not teach compassion as superiority, but as unity, recognizing that the pain of others is a reflection of your own. When you see others as yourself, kindness becomes effortless. There is also a quiet courage in compassion. It is not just a feeling, it's an action. It's listening without interrupting. It's forgiving when you could condemn. It's showing patience when you have every reason to be frustrated. It's choosing peace when your ego wants revenge. Compassion is not weakness, it's mastery over the mind. To be kind when it's easy means nothing. To be kind when it's hardest, that is enlightenment in motion. But compassion does not mean allowing yourself to be drained or mistreated. The Buddha taught the middle way balance between giving and preserving your energy. Compassion without wisdom becomes martyrdom. Wisdom without compassion becomes coldness. The goal is balance. To love deeply, but without attachment. To help others, but without losing yourself. You can offer your light without setting yourself on fire. The more compassion you cultivate, the more your perception of the world changes. You begin to see interconnectedness everywhere. The suffering of one being affects all. The joy of one being uplifts all. When you heal yourself, you heal the web of life because energy is not separate. Every act of kindness, no matter how small, ripples across the universe. A smile, a patient word, a silent prayer. These are not small gestures, they are seeds of awakening planted in the collective heart. There's a famous Buddhist story about a monk who encountered a scorpion struggling in the water. Each time he tried to save it, it stung him. A passerby asked, "Why do you keep trying to save it when it hurts you?" The monk replied, "Because it is the scorpion's nature to sting, but it is my nature to save." Compassion does not depend on others' behavior. It flows from your nature, your awareness, your peace. When you act with compassion, you act in alignment with the universe itself. Healing others through compassion does not mean fixing them. It means holding space for them to find their own healing. You can't pour peace into another person. You can only offer an example of it. The Buddha did not remove suffering from others. He showed them how to see through it. In the same way, your compassion becomes a light others can follow, not a chain that binds you to their pain. Over time, compassion becomes your natural state. You start noticing that even your smallest actions carry mindfulness: the way you speak, the way you listen, the way you move through the world. You radiate peace without trying, simply because you've become it. People will feel calm around you, not because you do something special, but because your presence itself becomes medicine. That is the quiet power of compassion. It heals without force, teaches without preaching, gives without losing. When you reach this state, your suffering begins to dissolve. Because when you love others, you cannot remain trapped in your own pain. Compassion lifts you above the narrow walls of me and mine. You start to see that we are all part of the same consciousness waves of one vast ocean. To harm another is to harm yourself. To heal another is to heal yourself. The illusion of separation breaks, and what remains is unity, pure, luminous, infinite. At the end of his life, the Buddha said, "As a mother protects her only child with her life, so should one cultivate boundless love toward all beings." This love is not sentimental. It is fierce, fearless, and eternal. It is love that sees clearly, love that says, "Even when you hurt me, I will not let hatred enter my heart." It is love that protects peace as its highest treasure. So begin where you are. Start small. Be gentle with yourself and with others. When anger arises, pause. When judgment appears, breathe. When pain surfaces, yours or someone else's, don't run. Stay. Witness it with love. Each time you choose compassion over reaction, you move closer to freedom. And remember, healing others doesn't mean you must be perfect. You heal the world not through your perfection, but through your presence. Every time you choose understanding over anger, patience over pride, peace over ego, you become a silent teacher. In the end, compassion is not something you do. It's what you are when the walls of fear fall away. When you live with an open heart, you carry a quiet revolution within you, a revolution that doesn't shout or demand, but simply is. A stillness so powerful it transforms everything it touches. That is the essence of healing through compassion, to realize that love was never something to search for. It was always what you were made of. When you awaken to that truth, your very existence becomes a prayer, your every breath an offering of peace to the world. And that, the Buddha would say, is the purest form of enlightenment, a heart so open that it embraces all beings, including the one beating inside your own chest. The art of letting life unfold, trusting the flow of the universe. There is a quiet wisdom in surrender, a peace that comes only when you stop trying to control everything and allow life to move through you as it wishes. Buddhism teaches that suffering begins the moment we resist what is. The mind, in its endless desire for certainty, tries to force life into predictable shapes. It makes plans, clings to outcomes, and panics when things don't go as imagined. But life was never meant to be controlled. It was meant to be experienced. Healing, true and deep, begins the day you stop fighting against the river and start flowing with it. To let life unfold doesn't mean becoming passive or careless. It means understanding that there is a rhythm far greater than your plans, a divine intelligence guiding everything toward balance. Just as the tide knows when to rise and the sun knows when to set, there is a timing to your life that you cannot rush or delay. Every delay, every detour, every silence, all of it has purpose. The Buddha taught that everything that arises from conditions, and everything that fades because its conditions have changed. When you learn to see through this lens, you stop demanding and start trusting. We are conditioned to believe that control equals safety. We make lists, chase goals, and worry endlessly about the future. But control is an illusion, a fragile comfort the mind clings to when it fears uncertainty. The truth is, life has always been unfolding perfectly, even when you thought it was falling apart. Every disappointment redirected you. Every heartbreak stripped away illusion. Every loss brought you closer to your true path. The river never stopped flowing. You just forgot to float. When you cling to outcomes, you create suffering. You say, "This must happen for me to be happy." And in that moment, you make your peace conditional. But Buddhism reminds us that happiness is not in events, it is in alignment with what is. When you let go of how things should be, you make space for how they can be. The unknown, once terrifying, becomes sacred, a space where possibilities can bloom. Imagine standing at the edge of a river, trying to scoop water into a jar so you can control its flow. No matter how hard you try, the water slips away. But if you step into the river, if you trust it to carry you, you realize the river itself was always taking you where you needed to go. Life is that river. The more you tighten your grip, the more you suffer. The more you surrender, the more you discover peace beyond understanding. The Buddha described this surrender as non-attachment. It doesn't mean not caring, it means caring deeply without clinging. It means acting with intention, but releasing the obsession with results. When you plant a seed, you water it, nurture it, or protect it, but you don't pull it out of the ground every day to see if it's growing. You trust that the soil, the sun, and time will do their work. In the same way, let your dreams be seeds. Nurture them with effort and love, but trust the universe with their timing. Many people mistake surrender for weakness, but it is one of the greatest acts of courage. To surrender is to admit that you are not the center of the universe, that there are forces at play far wiser than your plans. It takes courage to let go of certainty, to say, "I don't know what comes next, but I trust it will lead me where I'm meant to be." This is the essence of faith, not blind belief, but deep alignment with the natural flow of existence. When you stop resisting, something beautiful happens. You begin to notice how life supports you in ways you never saw before. The right people appear at the right time. Doors open effortlessly. Synchronicities start to unfold, not because you forced them, but because your energy is now aligned with peace, not panic. Resistance blocks the current. Surrender allows it to move through you. But letting go doesn't come easily. The mind is addicted to control because control creates the illusion of safety. It whispers, "If I can just plan everything, nothing will go wrong." Yet, no plan has ever protected anyone from pain. Even the Buddha faced sickness, loss, and death. What protected him, and what can protect you, is not control, but clarity. When you are clear inside, no external chaos can destroy your peace. To practice letting life unfold, start by noticing your tension. Notice how your body tightens when things don't go your way. Your jaw clenches, your chest tightens, your thoughts race. This is resistance in physical form. When you notice it, breathe deeply and say to yourself, "I release my need to control what I cannot." Feel the exhale as an act of surrender. Over time, this becomes a habit. Your mind learns that peace is found not in fixing, but in flowing. Meditation is the most powerful teacher of this truth. When you sit in silence, thoughts arise, plans, fears, judgments, and your instinct is to control them, but instead you watch them pass. You realize they are like clouds drifting through the sky. You can't stop them, but you can stop chasing them. Eventually, you realize you are not the clouds, you are the sky itself. Vast, spacious, unchanging. The more you practice, the more this realization seeps into your daily life. You stop fighting what comes and start dancing with it. Letting life unfold also means embracing impermanence. Everything changes: joy, sorrow, relationships, seasons, even your own body. This truth can feel heavy at first, but it is the very thing that makes peace possible. Because when you accept impermanence, you stop clinging. You stop trying to freeze moments, and instead, you live them fully. You taste your coffee more deeply, you listen more attentively, you love more honestly, because you know nothing lasts forever. Paradoxically, this awareness makes life richer, not emptier. Trusting life doesn't mean everything will be easy. It means you trust even the difficulties. The obstacles you face are not accidents, they are invitations. Each challenge teaches you patience, humility, strength. When you resist them, they feel like punishment. When you accept them, they become practice. The Buddha did not seek to remove suffering from life. He sought to remove our resistance to it. Because suffering without resistance becomes transformation. There is a story of a monk who carried a heavy water pot up a mountain every day. One day, the pot cracked, and half the water leaked before he reached the top. The pot wept, ashamed of its flaw. The monk smiled and said, "Look at the path where you leaked. Flowers have grown there." The pot realized that what it thought was its weakness was actually its gift. Life is like that. You may not see it now, but one day you will understand why certain things broke the way they did. The cracks were never mistakes. They were openings for light. When you surrender, you stop trying to force understanding before its time. You allow clarity to come naturally, like dawn. You realize that everything makes sense eventually, but only when you stop demanding answers. Life reveals its meaning in its own time. The mind wants closure. The soul wants expansion. Surrender gives the soul space to expand. You might ask, how do I trust life when so much has gone wrong? The answer is to look at how much has already gone right. You've survived everything that once felt impossible. You've healed from pain you thought would never end. You are stronger than every storm you've faced, not because you controlled them, but because you allowed yourself to move through them. Trust doesn't mean life will always give you what you want. It means it will always give you what you need. Letting life unfold also means embracing mystery. You don't have to know how everything works out to walk forward. You don't have to see the entire path, just the next step. The Buddha taught right effort, acting with clarity and compassion in the present moment, without being attached to the future. When you live this way, anxiety dissolves. You realize you don't need to plan your whole life, you just need to be present for this breath, this choice, this now. As you grow in trust, you begin to see the divine choreography of life. The delays that frustrated you become blessings in disguise. The rejections that broke your heart make space for new beginnings. The silence you once feared becomes the sound of alignment. Everything, even what you resisted, was always working for your awakening. The river of life doesn't need your control. It needs your cooperation. You are not meant to push it, but to float upon it, learning to navigate its turns with grace. The more you trust, the lighter you become. Worry fades, fear loosens, peace deepens. You begin to see that life was never against you. It was always carrying you home, back to yourself, back to stillness, back to love. So, the next time life changes suddenly, when a door closes, when plans fall apart, when uncertainty rises, pause, take a breath, whisper gently to yourself, maybe this too is part of the plan. Trust that the universe knows what it's doing. Let go of the need to understand and allow yourself to experience, because life, when surrendered to, becomes art, flowing, effortless, beautiful. It is not something to control, but something to dance with. And when you finally stop fighting and begin to flow, you realize that you were never separate from the river. You were the current all along, moving, evolving, unfolding perfectly in divine time. That is the ultimate freedom, to let life happen through you, not to you, to live each day as a witness, not a warrior, to breathe, to trust, and to remember that every moment, even the uncertain ones, is sacred. When you let life unfold, you stop surviving and start truly living. And in that surrender, peace ceases to be something you seek. It becomes who you are. 13. Silence is the language of healing. Listen to what words cannot teach. There is a moment on every path of awakening when words no longer hold enough space for what you feel. The noise of the world, the noise of your own thoughts, and the endless explanations begin to feel heavy, like carrying stones in your chest. You start to crave stillness, not just quiet around you, but silence within you, the kind that hums beneath everything, timeless and vast. In Buddhism, this silence is not emptiness in the ordinary sense. It is fullness beyond sound, the still, clear awareness that remains when the mind's chatter finally fades. It's here, in the heart of silence, that true healing begins. The Buddha often retreated into forests, caves, and quiet riversides not to escape the world, but to hear what the noise of the world had drowned out. He understood that beneath every thought, beneath every word, there is something deeper, the direct knowing of truth. You cannot think your way to peace. You must feel your way there. Silence is not the absence of sound, it's the presence of understanding. When you learn to listen to silence, it teaches you what no scripture, no teacher, and no philosophy ever could: the voice of your own soul. In our modern lives, silence has become rare. We live surrounded by distractions, phones buzzing, screens glowing, thoughts racing faster than time. The mind has become addicted to stimulation, terrified of stillness, because silence reveals what we've been avoiding. When you sit in silence, your pain rises, your fears whisper, your loneliness echoes, and so you escape back into noise. But Buddhism teaches that what you avoid holds the key to your freedom. The pain that emerges in silence is not new. It has always been there, waiting for you to face it. Silence doesn't create suffering, it reveals it so that it can finally be healed. When you sit quietly, you begin to witness how restless the mind truly is. Thoughts come like waves, memories, worries, regrets, each one demanding your attention. At first, this can feel overwhelming, but if you stay long enough, if you resist the urge to flee, something miraculous happens. You start to notice the space between thoughts. That space, that still gap where no thought exists, is where peace lives. The Buddha called it shunyata, emptiness that is not void, but infinite potential. In that silence, you touch the formless part of yourself, the awareness untouched by the storms of the world. Healing through silence is not about suppressing emotions, it's about giving them room to breathe. When you stop running, your wounds finally speak. They might not use words, but they speak through sensations: a tightness in the chest, a lump in the throat, a deep fatigue that words cannot explain. Listen to them. Let them move through you like wind through trees. Do not label them as good or bad. They are energy seeking release. The more you resist them, the louder they become. The more you allow them, the quieter they grow. Silence teaches patience, the kind that doesn't demand answers, the kind that allows everything to unfold naturally. When you're silent, you realize that most of life's questions don't need immediate answers. They need presence. You stop asking, "Why did this happen?" and begin to ask, What is this teaching me? You stop begging for closure and start finding comfort in not knowing. Silence dissolves the mind's obsession with certainty. It allows space for trust, trust in life, in timing, in your own unfolding. In silence, you also begin to hear nature's language. The sound of the wind becomes a teacher. The rhythm of your breath becomes a mantra. The space between bird songs feels like a prayer. When the mind quiets, you realize that life itself is speaking to you not in words, but in sensations, patterns, synchronicities. Silence reconnects you with the natural flow of existence. You realize that you are not separate from it. You are part of the same stillness that moves the tides, opens the flowers, and turns the stars. There's a reason why monks and mystics across centuries have sought silence. It's not to escape the world, but to understand it more deeply. In stillness, perception sharpens. You begin to see life as it truly is, unfiltered, alive, and sacred. You notice the fleeting nature of everything, and yet you no longer grieve its passing, because silence shows you that beneath every changing form lies something unchanging: awareness itself. That awareness is who you truly are. Many people think of silence as empty, but it is actually the source of everything. Every word is born from silence. Every thought returns to it. Without silence, there would be no sound. Without emptiness, no form. Silence is the womb of creation, the infinite background from which all existence arises. When you connect to that silence, you connect to the essence of being itself. You realize that peace is not something you must find. It's what remains when the noise fades. Practicing silence doesn't mean isolating yourself forever. It means carrying stillness within you, even in the busiest moments. You can be surrounded by chaos and yet remain calm because you've learned to rest in the space beyond reaction. The Buddha described this as equanimity, the balanced mind that remains undisturbed, whether praised or blamed, whether in gain or loss. Silence is the soil where equanimity grows. To begin this practice, you don't need to retreat to a mountain or monastery. Start small. Dedicate a few minutes each day to simply sit without distractions. Turn off your phone, close your eyes, breathe. Don't try to silence your mind, just notice it. Observe how thoughts rise and fall like waves on the ocean. The goal is not to stop thinking, but to stop identifying with every thought. Slowly, the waves settle, and you realize you are not the waves, you are the ocean. Over time, silence begins to follow you. You start to carry it in your breath, in your words, in your actions. You speak less, but with more meaning. You listen more deeply, not just to words, but to energy. You become more present with people because you are no longer lost in your mind's noise. Your relationships deepen because silence teaches you how to listen without needing to respond. And in listening, you give others what they rarely receive: your full, undivided presence. Silence also becomes your greatest healer during moments of pain. When grief strikes, when anger burns, when confusion clouds your vision, don't rush to fix it. Sit with it in silence. The mind will beg you to analyze, to explain, to act. But healing is not analysis, it's awareness. When you stop labeling your emotions and simply observe them, they begin to dissolve. Like fog in morning sun, pain fades in the light of awareness. Silence is that light. As your connection to silence deepens, you realize that it has always been with you in the pauses between your breaths, in the stillness before you speak, in the space between heartbeats. It is not something you must create. It is what you already are beneath the noise of thought. The Buddha's enlightenment under the Bodhi tree was not an explosion of new knowledge. It was the quiet realization of eternal silence within him. You, too, carry that same silence. In the end, silence becomes your teacher, your friend, your refuge. It teaches you to listen not only to the world, but to the whisper of your own intuition, that soft voice that always knows the way home. It teaches you that peace doesn't mean the absence of problems, but the presence of stillness amidst them. It teaches you that healing is not a process of addition but subtraction, removing everything that is not truth, not peace, not love. So, when the world becomes too loud, when your heart feels heavy, when words fail to capture what you feel, return to silence. Sit with yourself. Listen to your breath. Let your thoughts drift like clouds. Let your soul rest in the infinite quiet that lives within you, because in that silence you will remember what you've always known. You are not your pain, not your past, not your thoughts. You are the vast, still awareness beneath it all, untouched, eternal, free. And when you rise from that silence, you carry a different kind of strength, not the strength that comes from resistance, but the strength that comes from peace. You walk through the world gently, yet powerfully. You speak less, but your words carry light. You move slower, but every step feels sacred. You no longer chase healing because you've realized that you are already whole. That is the power of silence. It doesn't change the world outside you. It changes the way you experience it. And when your experience changes, the whole world changes with it. For in silence, you don't just hear the truth, you become it. 14. The light within the dark, how pain becomes the path to awakening. There comes a point in every soul's journey when the light you were chasing disappears. The path you thought was straight suddenly turns into a maze of confusion, silence, and loss. You look around and realize that everything you built, every identity, every dream, every certainty, has begun to crumble. This is what Buddhism calls dukkha, the inevitable suffering woven into the fabric of life. But contrary to what fear tells you, darkness is not the end, it's the beginning. For in Buddhism, suffering is not seen as punishment, it's seen as purification. It is through the dark night that the dawn of awakening begins to glow. Pain is not your enemy. Pain is your teacher, sometimes the only one you will listen to. It arrives uninvited, tearing away your illusions, forcing you to stop pretending that life can be controlled. The ego resists this violently. It says, "Why me?" It clings to comfort, to certainty, to the old self that no longer fits. But if you can pause in the midst of your pain, if you can breathe through the fire without running, you begin to see that the destruction is not chaos, it's transformation. The caterpillar doesn't understand the cocoon, yet it is the only way to become the butterfly. The Buddha's own awakening was born through deep suffering. Before enlightenment, he was Siddhartha, a prince who had everything yet felt something missing. When he left his palace and witnessed sickness, aging, and death, his heart broke open. That heartbreak was not the end of him, it was the start of his journey toward truth. He discovered that pain is not a curse but a mirror. It reflects the attachments and illusions we hold on to. Once seen clearly, suffering becomes a doorway to freedom. When you suffer, your first instinct is to escape. You distract yourself, numb yourself, run toward noise. But every escape only deepens the wound. Buddhism teaches that the only way out of suffering is through it. Not by analyzing it or suppressing it, but by sitting with it in awareness. Pain demands to be felt, not explained. When you stop labeling your emotions and start observing them, they lose their power to control you. You realize that pain, like everything else, is impermanent, a wave that rises and falls, not an identity to carry. Sit quietly for a moment and remember the hardest times in your life, the moments that shattered you, the nights that broke your heart. At the time, they felt unbearable. Yet now, when you look back, can you see how they shaped you, how they made you softer, wiser, more awake? That is the secret truth of suffering. What feels like destruction is often creation in disguise. Pain cracks you open so that love, compassion, and awareness can enter. It humbles you, strips away arrogance, and shows you what truly matters. In the stillness of suffering, the ego dies, and that death feels terrifying because you've mistaken your ego for yourself. But the ego is only a shadow, a collection of stories, labels, and expectations. Pain burns those stories away, leaving you face to face with your true self, pure awareness, boundless and free. That is why, in Buddhist teachings, pain is sacred. It's the fire that purifies gold. Without the fire, the gold remains hidden in stone. You cannot awaken without first breaking. Every great spiritual transformation begins with a collapse, a loss of identity, a dark night of the soul, a season of emptiness. The Buddha compared this to the process of burning away ignorance. He said that when the old self falls apart, the mind experiences fear because it believes it's dying. But what's dying is not you, it's your attachment to what you thought you were. The pain of losing yourself is the birth pain of becoming who you truly are. When you stop fighting the darkness, it starts to teach you. You begin to see that every tear carries wisdom, that every heartbreak is a call to let go of illusions. The mind sees pain as a problem to solve. The heart sees it as a doorway to awakening. If you listen carefully to your suffering, you'll find that it is always asking you to release something, an attachment, a belief, a resistance. Each layer of letting go brings you closer to peace. Buddhism also reminds us that suffering connects us to others. Every person you meet is carrying their own unseen pain. When you've known heartbreak, you can recognize it in another's eyes. This recognition is the root of compassion. The Buddha said, "Understanding suffering is the beginning of wisdom." Once you've walked through darkness and survived, you stop judging others for theirs. You realize that kindness is not pity, it's shared humanity. Compassion means saying, "I see your pain because I've seen my own." Pain is also the great equalizer. It dissolves illusions of separation, pride, and control. It reminds you that no matter how powerful or wise you think you are still human, fragile, temporary, vulnerable. But this vulnerability is not weakness, it's the doorway to real strength. In your most painful moments, when you have nothing left to prove or hide, you become authentic. You see yourself not as someone who must conquer life, but as someone who belongs to it. That shift from control to surrender, from me to we, from mine to ours, is the essence of awakening. The mind will ask, "How do I make this pain go away?" But the wiser question is, what is this pain trying to show me? Sometimes pain teaches you patience. Sometimes it teaches you boundaries. Sometimes it teaches you to stop expecting life to be fair. And sometimes it teaches you love, real love. Not the fragile kind that depends on conditions, but the love that arises when you see beauty even in brokenness. Meditation is one of the most powerful ways to transform pain. When you sit with your suffering in silence, without judging it, you create a space where healing can occur naturally. The Buddha called this vipassana insight meditation, the practice of seeing things as they truly are. When you observe pain without labeling it as good or bad, you begin to see its impermanent nature. You realize that everything you experience, joy, sorrow, fear, love, arises, stays for a while, and passes. This understanding dissolves attachment. You stop clinging to pleasure and resisting pain. You simply witness life's dance. As you deepen in awareness, you begin to experience a paradox. Even in pain, there is peace. It's not the peace of avoidance, but the peace of acceptance, the quiet knowing that pain and peace are not opposites. They coexist. Just as the lotus blooms in the mud, your peace grows through the soil of suffering. The mud doesn't stain the flower, it nourishes it. Likewise, your darkness doesn't define you, it refines you. In time, you come to see that nothing in your life has been wasted. Every heartbreak, every failure, every loss, all of it has been sacred ground for your awakening. Buddhism calls this karma's unfolding not as punishment, but as evolution. Each experience you face is a teacher guiding you closer to freedom. The soul learns not through perfection, but through contrast, through falling and rising, through breaking and mending. When you embrace pain as part of the journey, fear loses its power. You no longer dread the future, because you know that whatever comes, you have the strength to walk through it. You've learned that even in your lowest moments, something inside you, call it awareness, call it spirit, call it light, never leaves. That light is your true self. It may flicker in the storm, but it never goes out. There's a story from Zen tradition about a monk who asked his master, "How do I find liberation?" The master replied, "Who binds you?" The monk said, "No one." The master smiled and said, "Then why do you seek freedom?" In that moment, the monk realized that liberation is not something to reach. It's the recognition that you were never truly imprisoned. Pain doesn't chain you, your resistance to it does. Once you stop resisting, you see that even the darkness was never your enemy. It was your teacher all along. So the next time life brings you to your knees, remember, this too is part of your awakening. Let yourself feel it fully, completely, without shame. Cry if you need to, rest if you must. But do not turn away. Sit in the darkness until your eyes adjust, until you begin to see the faint glimmer of light. That light is not outside you, it's within. It has been waiting for you to notice it. Pain will come and go, but what you discover through it will stay forever. You will learn that you are not fragile, you are resilient. You are not broken, you are breaking open. You are not lost, you are being guided. The cracks in your soul are not flaws, they are doorways for light to enter. And one day, when someone else sits in their own darkness, trembling, you will sit beside them not to fix them, but to hold space. You will say, "I know this place. I have been here too. And I promise the light will return." In that moment, your pain becomes your purpose, your suffering becomes your strength, and your darkness becomes your greatest offering of love. That is the gift of pain. It breaks you, but only to reveal that you were never broken. It leads you through the dark, not to destroy you, but to show you the brilliance of the light that was within you all along. 15. Becoming one with the present moment where real life finally begins. At some point in your spiritual journey, you realize that the greatest illusion you've ever believed is that peace lives somewhere other than now. The human mind is obsessed with elsewhere. It runs to the past to mourn what's lost, or to the future to chase what might come. Yet, the Buddha taught that both are illusions, shadows of a reality that only exists in this single breath. Every moment you spend resisting the present, you abandon the only place where healing, love, and true freedom can ever happen. Enlightenment is not a destination. It is the art of being completely here. The present moment is often overlooked because it seems too simple. The mind wants something more dramatic, some future revelation, some distant miracle. It cannot accept that what it's been seeking all along is already here, quietly waiting beneath layers of thought. The Buddha said, "Do not dwell in the past, do not dream of the future, concentrate the mind on the present moment." Yet this simple truth is one of the hardest to live, because the ego thrives on movement. It needs time to survive. The past gives it identity, and the future gives it hope. But the now, the eternal now, exposes the illusion. When you sit in the present, really sit, without trying to change or escape, you begin to notice something extraordinary. Everything you've been fighting, everything you've been longing for, starts to lose its grip. The noise of your mind quiets, not because it disappears, but because you stop believing every thought it throws at you. The past no longer defines you. The future no longer controls you. You start to see not with your eyes, but with your awareness. To live in the present doesn't mean ignoring the past or refusing to plan for the future. It means living with full attention and peace in this breath, this step, this heartbeat. You remember the past only as a teacher, not as a home. You prepare for the future, but do not worship it. You become like a traveler who enjoys each step of the path, instead of fixating on the destination. In this way, every moment becomes sacred, not because of what it contains, but because of how fully you experience it. When you are truly present, you begin to taste the essence of life. A single breath becomes a miracle. The sound of rain feels like music. The warmth of sunlight becomes prayer. Time slows down, or rather, you rise above time altogether. You realize that life was never rushing anywhere. It was always unfolding perfectly, here and now. You stop living life as a series of waiting rooms, waiting for the weekend, for love, for success, for peace. You understand that life is not something that will happen later, it's happening now. But the mind resists presence because presence requires surrender. It wants control. It wants to fix, to label, to judge. So it constantly pulls you away from now, whispering, "What if?" and "if only." These are the two thieves of peace. One steals from the future, the other from the past. Buddhism teaches mindfulness as the antidote. Mindfulness means remembering to remember, to gently bring your awareness back to the present every time it wanders. It's not about forcing yourself into stillness. It's about noticing when you've left and softly returning home. One of the most beautiful aspects of presence is that it transforms even ordinary moments into gateways to enlightenment. Washing dishes, walking in nature, drinking tea, all can become meditation. Thich Nhat Hanh, one of the great modern Buddhist teachers, said, "While washing the dishes, wash the dishes." Meaning, don't wash them to get them done. Wash them to be with them. Feel the water. Hear the rhythm. Smell the soap. When you do this, something sacred awakens not in the world, but within you. Presence also dissolves anxiety, because anxiety cannot survive in the now. Worry lives in imagination. It feeds on what might happen, not on what is happening. When you anchor yourself in the present, fear loses its fuel. Even pain becomes bearable when faced moment by moment. The mind says, "I can't handle this for the rest of my life." But you don't need to handle the rest of your life, you only need to handle this moment. One breath, one step, one heartbeat. That's all. And when you stay with just this, you discover that peace is always within reach. To practice presence, start with awareness of the body. The body is always here. The mind is not. Feel your feet on the ground, your hands resting, your breath moving in and out. Notice how the air feels against your skin. Notice the subtle sensations you usually ignore. These anchors pull you back into reality. Whenever your thoughts drift, and they will bring them back to these sensations, you'll begin to notice that each time you return to now, something inside you relaxes. You come home to yourself. Presence also transforms your relationships. Most people don't truly listen. They hear words while planning responses in their minds. But when you're fully present with someone, you listen with your whole being. You stop trying to fix them, defend yourself, or prove your point. You simply listen. In that listening, something miraculous happens. Love becomes effortless. You realize that love is not found through words or promises, it's found through presence. When you give someone your full attention, you give them the rarest gift, the feeling of being seen. In silence, presence deepens. Meditation is not about escaping life. It's about entering it more fully. As you sit quietly, observing your breath or sensations, you train yourself to rest in awareness itself, the timeless stillness beneath all movement. At first, this stillness might feel empty, but soon you realize it's full of peace, full of life, full of you. This is what the Buddha called the unconditioned. It's the part of you that remains untouched by time, loss, or fear. Yet, living in the present moment doesn't mean rejecting goals or aspirations. It means detaching from the outcome while remaining fully engaged with the process. You can still pursue dreams, build, create, but your joy no longer depends on the result. You work not for reward, but for the love of the act itself. Like an artist painting for the sake of beauty, not for applause, when you act from presence, your energy becomes pure, no longer driven by lack, but by love. There's an old Zen saying, "Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water." The difference is awareness. Before you did these tasks out of obligation, lost in thought. After awakening, you do them as expressions of mindfulness. The outer world hasn't changed, you have. You've stopped waiting for something better to come. You've realized that better is an illusion. There is only now. Presence also teaches humility. You begin to see that life unfolds with or without your control. You stop forcing, start flowing. You realize that you don't own this moment, you are part of it. You belong to it, just as the leaf belongs to the wind and the wave belongs to the ocean. This humility brings deep gratitude. You stop taking simple things for granted: a breath, a sunrise, a touch. Gratitude and presence are twins. The more present you are, the more grateful you become. Of course, staying present is not always easy. The mind will constantly try to pull you back into its storms, replaying past regrets, imagining future fears. But every time you catch yourself drifting and return to the now, you are awakening a little more. Each return is a victory. You might have to do it 100 times a day, but with practice, it becomes natural. Slowly, the gap between you and the present closes until you realize there was never a gap at all, only the illusion of one. When you live anchored in now, life feels lighter. Even when challenges arise, you handle them with clarity because your mind isn't cluttered by stories. You respond instead of reacting. You flow instead of fighting. You move through life like water, adaptable, calm, powerful. You discover that joy is not something to chase but something to allow. It's always here, waiting beneath the noise of thought. Buddhism calls this state suchness, seeing life as it is, without resistance or distortion. When you live in suchness, you stop trying to make reality match your preferences. You see beauty even in imperfection, grace even in chaos. You begin to experience what Zen masters call satori flashes of profound realization, where you suddenly feel one with everything. These moments can happen anywhere while sipping tea, hearing laughter, or simply breathing. They reveal that enlightenment is not hidden in some distant temple. It's in this very breath. As you deepen into presence, you start to understand that the present moment is not static. It's alive, flowing, infinite. It holds all of time within it. The past is memory unfolding now. The future is imagination arising now. Everything that has ever been or will be is contained within this eternal moment. You realize that you were never moving through time. Time was moving through you. So, pause right now. Take a deep breath. Feel it enter your lungs, travel through your body, and leave gently. Feel your feet grounded, your heart beating, your awareness expanding. This breath is life. Not tomorrow, not yesterday. Just this. The mind may say, "That's too simple." But the soul whispers, "This is everything." The secret of peace is not in doing more, but in being more, being here, being aware, being alive. You don't need to chase enlightenment. You only need to stop running from now. For the present moment is not just where life happens, it is life itself. And when you finally learn to live here fully, completely, without resistance, you'll realize something timeless. The search for meaning ends because you have become one with it. You'll no longer wait for your life to begin, because it already has in this breath, in this stillness, in this eternal now. At the heart of every spiritual path, every act of self-discovery, every tear shed in silence, there lies one eternal truth: you were never broken, only disconnected. The suffering you've carried, the mistakes you've made, the pain you've endured, none of it has been in vain. Every scar was a teacher, every ending was a beginning in disguise. Every moment of darkness was guiding you not away from yourself, but back home. Buddhism teaches that the journey is not about becoming something new, it's about remembering what you already are. Pure awareness, untouched by circumstance, beyond birth and death. The light you've been searching for was never outside of you. It was waiting beneath layers of fear, attachment, and noise. When you begin to love yourself, when you stop running, when you learn to sit with silence, you begin to see it, that unshakable, radiant presence that has always been there, quietly watching, endlessly patient. You came into this world whole. Then life happened, expectations, comparisons, heartbreaks, and you began to forget. You learned to abandon yourself for acceptance, to trade authenticity for approval, to chase peace while ignoring that it was inside you all along. The path of healing is simply the path of remembering, remembering to breathe, to pause, to let go, to forgive, to be. Each lesson you've walked through, from learning to stop pleasing others, to facing your fears, to finding stillness in chaos, has been preparing you for this truth, that peace is not found in changing life, but in embracing it. The storms will still come, people will still leave, the body will still age, but when you live anchored in awareness, none of it can steal your serenity. You become the calm in the center of every storm. The Buddha never promised a world without pain, he promised freedom from suffering. That freedom is born not from control, but from understanding. Understanding that everything changes. Understanding that everything you love will one day fade, and yet, because of that impermanence, every moment becomes infinitely precious. Understanding that nothing external can complete you, because completeness was your nature from the start. To love yourself first, as these teachings remind you, is not arrogance, it's alignment. When you honor your own being, when you nurture your inner peace, you begin to move through the world differently. You no longer seek validation, you radiate it. You no longer chase love, you embody it. You no longer cling to outcomes, you flow with them. Your very existence becomes meditation, a quiet offering to the world that says, "This is what peace looks like." And perhaps that is the final teaching. Healing is not about becoming invincible, it's about becoming open. Open to the full spectrum of life, the joy and the sorrow, the beauty and the pain. To live fully awake is to stop dividing your experience into good and bad, right and wrong, success and failure. It is to see that everything, absolutely everything, is part of the divine unfolding of your growth. So, take a deep breath. You've traveled far through noise, through loss, through illusion, and you've arrived at the simplest, most sacred place, the present moment. This is where your healing lives. This is where peace breathes. This is where you finally realize there was never anywhere to go, nothing to prove, nothing to fix. Only this moment, only this awareness, only this love. May you carry this silence wherever you walk. May your heart remain soft, even when life hardens. May your compassion extend first to yourself, and then to the world. And may you always remember that enlightenment is not at the end of the path. It is the path. It is how you breathe, how you love, how you live. The journey to self-love, to healing, to awakening, is not a straight road. It's a spiral that always leads you back here, to this breath, this truth, this now. The light you've been chasing has been inside you all along. And when you finally stop searching and start seeing, you'll understand you were never becoming whole. You were simply remembering that you already are.